We are going to switch our conversation now to the NBA playoffs, which start today. We had an exciting week of NBA play-in games. Timberwolves punched their ticket last night. Hawks dominated the Heat, got in a couple days ago. We've got a really interesting set of games here. What we're going to do is we're going to preview both the Eastern and the Western Conference. So the way this will work, guys, is you can tell us just a little bit about maybe one or two matchups that you really like, or some of the futures bets to win the whole thing, or to win the Eastern or Western Conference, if you think that there's some good numbers on that as well. And we'll just kind of have an organic discussion about who we like in the NBA here. So before we do any of that, Nate, I'm praying you have this up because we haven't talked about it. Can you just give us the futures odds? If you don't have it, I do.
I got it up.
Okay. So futures odds, we'll just say to win the NBA Finals. You don't have to list every team. That would be the most boring 2 minutes in radio history, but maybe like 3 or 4 that just pop out at you.
Yeah. So we have. Sorry, I said I had it up, and then I had a different thing up. I had the playoff thing up. Jack, do you have it? Do you want to?
I have it up. So
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Milwaukee Bucks are plus 265. That's the clear favorite to win the whole thing. Boston Celtics plus 310. The Suns, who are the 4th seed, plus 425. That's kind of an interesting. They jump a lot of teams. Those are really short odds, but of course they have Kevin Durant. So the record doesn't exactly show the best version of that team. Warriors plus 900. Interesting. Then we get down a little further. Like, okay, one thing that's sort of odd to me, we've got 20-1 for the Grizzlies. They're the 2 seed. They're playing the Lakers, I believe. And the Lakers are plus 1600. So just a lot of weird stuff going on here. The Kings, who have been really good, they have the most efficient offense in the NBA. They're 80-1. So a lot of stuff going on here. But of course, a lot of these odds tend to respect teams that have been there before, because these young teams that have never really been in the playoffs, like the Kings, and are just experiencing success, or the Grizzlies, who are pretty young, or the Cavs, another team that is a little bit younger, plays great defense. They're just, you can't respect those teams as much as you have to respect some of the teams that have been around for a while. So let's start with the Eastern Conference. Let's start with Trent. Then we'll kind of go around the horn here. What's 1 or 2 matchups that you're looking forward to in the Eastern Conference, Trent?
I think the Cleveland New York Knicks series is going to be an interesting one, because I think Randall is questionable for game 1 for the Knicks. So if he plays, I think New York is a pretty live dog there. Because Cleveland, like you said, Cleveland's a young team.
Yeah, so Cleveland is a young team, and the Knicks have been in the playoffs a couple times. A couple of years ago, they famously lost to Trae Young and the Hawks when we thought maybe the Hawks and Trae Young were going to be real contenders. That hasn't happened because of Trae Young's issues playing with literally anyone not named Trae Young at times.
Team basketball.
Right, yeah. So the Knicks, kind of an interesting bet there. The Cavs do have the most efficient defense in the country. They play incredible defense, but they are young. They do have home court advantage, but it's hard to win in Madison Square Garden when you end up going to New York. So that's kind of an interesting one, that 4 or 5 live dog for that matchup. Nate, anything that pops out to you in the Eastern Conference? Any teams that you're really excited about?
Just to speak to the Cavs sort of Knicks matchup. I mean, I think that it's fascinating, and the odds are weird, right? Because I think that the Knicks sort of get a little bit more hype than the Cavs, but the Cavs are like, minus 210 in this series. So, I mean, I think that is probably the most fascinating matchup. I kind of agree with Trent but I kind of like the Cavs here just for reasons of depth. Like, the Knicks don't have a ton beyond their sort of starting 5. It seems like the Cavs are sort of a deeper, more complete team. So I do like the Cavs to sort of keep being sort of.
All right, I'm gonna go counter to that, Nate. I like the Knicks in this series. I don't like Cleveland. I don't like their inexperience. And
like, how experienced is New York? Like, they've been like in the doldrums of like the NBA for like ever.
Yeah,
like
and
the
they
Knicks
can't get out of the first
did,
round of playoffs.
Teams that play great defense, and it all looks fine on paper, but then you got to put the ball in the basket, right? And the Knicks they're more seasoned, they're more experienced, they got more shooters. And yeah, I mean, you try to go
You're just
deep
being
in these
contrarian.
playoffs. Well, you try to go deep in these playoffs with basically no depth and a 5-man rotation. That's my problem with the Phoenix Suns. They don't
That's
have
the
any
problem
depth.
with the Knicks.
Well, but it's
got no
only one
depth.
series. We're not picking to win to win the East, right? My pick to
All
win the East. Look, there's only 2 teams that are going to come out of the East, and it's either Fear the Deer or the Celtics, right? One of these teams is going to be representing the East. But we're talking about one playoff series where the Knicks have 5 better starters, and that can go 6 games. Now they can't go beyond that because they get gassed in a trying to win 3-7 gamers. But I like them over Cleveland in this one. So we're counter on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that you just got bored and went contrarian with that because
Yeah,
for
you just didn't
months,
like listening to us talk.
yeah, because for months you've been telling us that you had this reputation all over Georgia as like the most defensive minded basketball coach in the history of Georgia basketball, which also wasn't necessarily true, but okay, I take your point. And you've been saying, okay, I love defense. Defense is my thing. And now you're like, oh, defense is boring. I need more offense. So that just, I don't know about that pick. Now
I changed my position.
Yeah, you do that sometimes. Now I'm leaning hard Cavs because you went with the Knicks. I'm kind of just annoyed at that entire analysis. I like the Knicks. I mean, I really do. Julius Randle has been electric this year. They played really good basketball, but the Cavs do have the best defense in the league. And at some point, they're going to win a series. And then you just have to kind of worry about the Knicks getting out of the first round anyway. And it's not as though Cleveland's defense is like we're not talking like it's the Hornets. I mean, or offense. I'm sorry. Offensively, Cleveland is, a top 8 team in their efficiency rating, and in the net rating, they're second. I mean, this team, like the more I think about it, Cleveland is not a bad futures bet either to get out of the East. However, as Dad mentioned, we've got the Bucks and the Celtics, who are going to be difficult to pass in that, and the Sixers, who have been there forever.
Yeah.
No, come on. If you're depending on Hardaway, if you're depending on that guy to get you to finals, how many? Look, as a Rockets fan, and I don't like, I can't stand the NBA anymore with all the woke stuff. Everybody knows that.
All right.
But I do watch the playoffs. But look, James Harden, are you kidding me? How many times this guy blew games in the clutch one after the other, and then they get beat and they get upset, and he ends up in a Houston downtown club at 2 a.m. I mean, that guy is poison, and the Sixers are going nowhere with this guy, because at the end of the day, right? He's going to, in the 7th game, he's going to come up empty, just like he always does. I mean, if you believe in history, how can you bet this guy to win anything? He's the biggest disappointment to me of talent in the entire history of the NBA.
Oh, okay. Well, so first off, his name is James Harden, not James Hardaway.
Yeah, Harden,
Penny
whatever,
Hardaway.
right?
Used to play
blocked
basketball
him
in the 90s.
after blowing so many Rockets games. I've blocked him out of my mind with the beard. I'm so sick of the guy. And what did he do he went to 76. He's always whining and complaining about something, but he doesn't win a big game. You got to win a big game, guys. Win me a big game and I'll believe. Lose every big game, I'm done with you. So I'm done with him. I'm done with the Sixers. I think they're smoke and mirrors.
I mean, you're not wrong about Harden's inability to show up in the playoffs. We can talk about that with Westbrook as well on the Western side with the Clippers. But I guess my thinking here is that Joel Embiid might win or could have won the MVP. He was definitely in the discussion. And I feel like Harden has sort of matured a little bit on this team to take a little bit of a back seat, be a little bit more of a facilitator. But Trent, when we're talking Sixers and Nets, is that a series you're interested in? Do the Sixers have a chance to advance, or are we just talking Bucks Celtics?
Yeah, I think Bucks Celtics is probably the team to come out of the East. Philly has a good squad, but I just don't know if you can rely on Embiid game in, game out to get it done in the playoffs when they face
Exactly.
Boston or
I agree with
Milwaukee.
you. I agree with Trent 100%. I mean, you bet Philadelphia. Here's what you're doing. You're betting on guys who are not proven winners in big games. And that's the same thing goes with Embiid. I mean, Trent, you're exactly correct. Game in and game out in these playoff games. Is this the guy you're going to count on? Is Harden the guy you're going to count on? I don't think so. Look, I get back to what I said earlier. This thing is it's Milwaukee or Boston. One of these teams is going to win. So we'll go from there. But you know, Milwaukee. Look, Milwaukee is very, very tough. They're a very balanced team. They got depth. They got every. I mean, where's their weakness? I can't find it.
Yeah, last year their weakness was injuries because of Chris Middleton, obviously. They don't really have a weakness. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the NBA. And unlike the Nuggets, who people do not see as a true number one, everybody sort of believes that the Bucks are the number one seed. So the Bucks, very complete team, favorites to win the whole thing, definitely favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Celtics took care of business last year, ended up in the finals. Any thought to the Celtics, Nate, as far as a futures pick? I mean, I think we expect them to take care of the Hawks. I'm sure we expect the Bucks to take care of the Heat. I don't really even think those series will be very close. The interesting series are the Cavs, Knicks, Sixers, Nets. But any thought to the Celtics here? I mean, they did it last year. They haven't looked as good this year, but they still are the two seed.
I think, I mean, just staring at the odds here for Eastern Conference, I think that, I mean, so Bucks are plus 120 to win the East and Celtics are plus 150. And they're, you know, the two sort of class of the Eastern Conference. Everything else after that is, you know, almost 5-1. But I mean, just looking at them, they're so close in odds, but it feels like Milwaukee's so much like better that I think I'd be more inclined just to take the plus 120 than try and like get cute and take plus 150 with Boston. Is sort of how I'm looking at it. I don't think there's, you know, if Boston's like,
well, don't you know,
plus 250, then like maybe you get a little cute, but like plus 150, I don't know.
Don't you think, Nate, if you think the Bucks are going to come out of the East like I do, right? And I don't think there's a Western team that is going to beat them. So don't you think a better play is instead of betting them at 120 at 265 to win the whole thing? I mean, that's the bet I made, because I think it's them or Boston. If they get out of the East, who's gonna beat them? Phoenix? I don't see it. So I think the better play here, just me, is Milwaukee to win the whole thing plus 265.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, so Dad, Milwaukee plus 265. Coming out of the East, Nate, you have Milwaukee plus 120.
Yeah.
Trent.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee comes out of the East.
You guys are no fun. Look, I understand. I'm like the king of.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the king of losing losing these futures bets. I do it all the time because the 1 or 2 seed, the teams in the NBA that are usually the cream of the crop, end up in the finals. But I don't know. I'm always a believer. So I like, 15-1 Cavs to come out of the East there. I love that. Plus 1,500, best defense in the country, young team. Maybe they get on a little bit of a roll here. I don't like the Sixers at plus 475 for reasons we talked about, but I'm going Cavs 15-1 out of the East, get on a little roll. I did this with Dallas last year and got my heart broken when they lost in the Western Conference Finals. They got destroyed. It wasn't even close against the Warriors. So let's go Cavs again. Maybe they win a series and I'll have a little bit of fun. So we're going to talk Western Conference in a minute here. But Dad, first, can you tell us a little bit about target trading and everything Patrick's doing at targettrading.co?
Well, we missed Patrick Asloan this week. He's a super analyst on our panel, and he's got the best stories, and he's also a personal friend of ours. He's just a great guy, former fighter. But target trading, go to targettrading.co. That's his futures trading company, and you get the whole training program there. It's very disciplined. Mom is in it. Ann has been in it for some time. She's doing very well. And he's kind of like me, full transparency. When they finally let somebody go live after the training, and you can basically start, there's no brick and mortar. You can work at your leisure. It's all online. But when they actually let somebody loose, then every week and every month, they give you a rundown right on the radio and TV of how many winning trades they had and losing trades they had, and the total amount of money won or made, or tossed by their students, and they have a consistent winning record. So a lot of people from my show have gone into the program, probably about 100 of them now, all of them successful. Not one complaint. Now, it's hard work, but go to targettrading.co. See if this is right for you. It's a great second income opportunity. Targettrading.co. And Patrick Asselon there will take care of you. You mentioned Godzilla. You get 15% off your tuition. Targettrading.co.
All right. Thank you, Dad. So we got about 12 minutes. We got to do the Western Conference. I think, Dad, you're not giving enough credit to some of these teams in the West. We're going to talk about a couple of the teams that I think really have a shot. Let me run through the conference winner odds, just a couple interesting ones. So a lot of people like the Phoenix Suns because of the Kevin Durant trade. They're the most complete team. They're really the most dangerous team if they're all healthy in the playoffs with Chris Paul and everything else. They're plus 180. Warriors plus 350, given the respect of how well they do in the playoffs. We all know their history. Denver Nuggets plus 380, number 1 seed Nikola Jokic with basically nobody around him carrying that team. Lakers plus 650, been playing incredible basketball lately after the Westbrook trade. Grizzlies 2 seed plus 700 to win the Western Conference. Clippers, who now have Westbrook and have been playing better with Westbrook's been much better with the Clippers, 20-1. Kings 3rd seed. The Kings are the 3rd seed, guys, 28-1. They've been playing great all year. And then the mighty Timberwolves at 80-1 after the play-in game win last night. So really excited about the Western Conference here. Always locked into that. Let's start with Dad this time because he loves to talk. Dad, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you like in the Western Conference.
If you're looking for value, Sacramento is 28-1. I can't believe it. I mean, this is a team that it's just a balanced team. They're not flashy. They don't get on TV a lot. They play on the West Coast, right? People, I mean, the Kings have had their issues for a very long time, but this is just a solid, well-balanced club. They have a decent bench. You know, they're not flashy, but they just continue to grind out wins. And I just can't, I mean, they're getting no respect in Vegas. I mean, 28-1. I mean, here's a team. I mean, here's if you look at them right now, here's a team that won almost 50 games, right? They're only 5 games back of Denver for being the number one seed. They were up 5 at home. They were 25-16 on the road. So this team can play on the road. And it's tough. These West Coast teams going on the road, they go to these Eastern swings, you know, a lot of time on an airplane. Had that kind of record on the road. You know, I like them. I take a shot with the Grizzlies, but I think if you're looking for value here, Kings 28-1, I think they got as good a shot in this thing as anybody.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to throw it to Nate and Trent in a minute here, but we need to talk a little bit about the Kings because statistically they're kind of a darling, but sometimes when you watch them, it's a little bit of a more complicated story. So offensively, they're the most efficient team in the country, 118.6 in their offensive rating. Defensively, a little bit of a different story, not nearly as good. A lot of times with the Kings, you can make a lot of money betting those overs because they score a lot. But listen, they're 24th in defensive efficiency. That's crazy for a team that is a 3 seed. So offensively, you look at them and you think, man, they're the 3 seed. They win a lot of games. They got Sabonis. They're playing really incredible basketball. Their assist to turnover rate, they're number 2 in the country at that. Defensive rebound percentage, they grab a lot of boards. They're in their top 6 there. The issue though is they can't play defense. And when you start playing teams in the playoffs that you have to give so much more of an effort on defense. And it's clear that the Kings either aren't giving an effort or they don't have it figured out. They're not running the right sets because you have to fight through screens a little bit harder in the playoffs. You have to fight for more rebounds. You have to play with about 25% more effort than you do in the regular season. And I don't know if the Kings have that ability because defensively, they just struggle so much. So I mean, the money there is good, but I'm not totally sure that the Kings are right for the right play here because the defense is just so bad. You don't have to have the best defense in the world to win the Western Conference, but you do have to stop teams like the Suns or the Grizzlies or the Lakers, the Clippers, some of these teams that can really score. So let's go to Nate. Any parting words on the Kings or another team that you really like in the Western Conference?
Yeah. So, I mean, my parting words on the Kings are, you're right. I mean, that's what I was going to bring up is, 24th in defensive efficiency. They allow opponents to shoot 37% from outside. They allow almost 54 points in the paint per game. Both of those are bottom 5 marks, just in terms of numbers. And I mean, it speaks volumes that they're a 3 seed in this, but they lost their season series to the Warriors, right? They lost in 4 matchups against the Warriors. They were 1-3. And the Warriors are minus 275 in the series to beat them, which is just, I mean, it speaks to, the seeding doesn't matter anymore in the NBA, right? And that's sort of been a thing that's been talked about. And it's clear here. The Warriors are a better team than the Kings. The Kings are fun. They're sexy because they, score all these points or whatever. But are the Warriors really a team that you want to get into a shootout with? Like right now? I just don't see them being that, like, it's a fun story, but I don't see them, really like pressing the Warriors here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was going to.
Yeah, that's a bad.
To a different thing.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup for the Kings because the Warriors are notorious for moving the ball around. Their assists percentage is always super high. They cut like crazy. They never stop moving. They find the open man, and if you can't play defense, you're going to get outscored. And then, you've got a team that is experienced, a team that wins all the time in the playoffs against a team that's never been in the playoffs with this squad and has seen a lot of success, but maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it could be upset alert there too. Why don't you pivot to another game, Nate? Then we'll get Trent and Dad back in the conversation and move on to some baseball.
Yeah. So here's my fun bet. So in February, I'm a pretty casual NBA fan. We talked about this, Jack. But I don't know. I was reading something about the Lakers. I don't even remember what it was. And it was like the Lakers were sort of like mired in just mediocrity. It was right around the time they traded Russell Westbrook for D'Angelo Russell. And I was, just sort of blithely going through my William Hill. And the Lakers were 20-1 to win the Western Conference. And I immediately punched my donation in. So now I'm a huge Lakers fan, at least through the Western Conference, because 20-1 is awesome. Now they're like plus 650. So I figured it was just like a donation. I didn't even know if they were going to make the play. It was like kind of touch and go for the last couple of weeks, whether they were going to be in the playoffs, or if they were going to have to play a play-in game.
That was a good bet, Nate. I tell you what,
Thank you.
You've done that a couple of times where you've seen something, just immediately jumped on it. A lot of us don't do that, but that was a pretty astute. That was a pretty astute bet, figuring 20-1. It's still the Lakers. They still got LeBron. So can we make picks to win the Western Division? And then I got a pick for tonight. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Before we move on,
real quick before we do that, Nate likes to go on here and tell you his futures bets that work out, but he's also accidentally bet like Super Bowl futures for like 2 years out.
That's true.
So it's when you're betting on the Super Bowl in 2024 and it's like 2021 or whatever. Those are not the bets that he brings up on the radio. So,
that's just like
that's
buying a
what I
lottery
keep to
ticket.
myself.
Yeah. You really got to read the ticket before you hit, wage or whatever, place wager.
I'm pretty sure this one's for this year though.
Yeah. Well, you'll find out soon enough. Dad, go ahead and make your pick for the Western Conference. You can give out your pick for the day as well. And then we'll move around to Trent and Nate, and then we'll move on to some baseball.
Sacramento. 28-1. They're just going to continue to outscore everybody. Reason I like them here is the exact opposite of what Nate said, the exact opposite. They get by Golden State, they're going to win the conference. So you might as well get that over with, score your 120 a game, steal this thing in 7. And then I think they're going to be in good shape. But I got an NBA winner tonight. Ambush in Boston. Ambush tonight in Boston. I love the Hawks going in there +9. I love Quinn Snyder. He's going to draw something up big. Guy's one of the best coaches in the NBA. They played with them in the final game of the season, right down to the wire with, half their guys on the bench. I get the whole Trae Young thing. Okay. Team basketball, but I love Quinn Snyder coming into these situations. Boston's going to overlook them first game. It's going to be an ambush. I'm getting 9. best bet tonight, Hawks +9 in Boston.
That's a horrible bet. Don't do that. But okay, Trent, go ahead and tell us who you think is going to win the Western Conference. Who do you like?
I'm gonna go with the favorite in the Phoenix Suns. I think they drew a pretty good matchup in the first series against the Clippers, especially if Paul George doesn't play at all. I think they should get by them. And the Suns they have so many guys that you can just give the ball to, and they can get a bucket. I mean, Booker, Ayton, Durant, Chris Paul. They got the stars. And I think they can get by the West.
Nate?
It has to be the Lakers for me, right? I mean, for all those things that we just talked about, I just keep riding with the Lakers.
Keep riding with the Lakers. Okay. So I'm a Grizzlies fan, and I have no faith in them this year with all the off-court troubles they've been having. They don't seem as locked in as they had in the past. I mean, last year I was all in, and then they struggled against the Timberwolves last year. I don't know. So I can't, in good conscience, take my team, the Grizzlies. So I'll stick with the Suns here, even though the short price is a little annoying at +180. I think the 4.5 to 1 to win the whole thing is probably a fine bet. Kevin Durant's done it multiple times. That team can get it done. So I'm going to go with the Suns as well. And we'll have to keep an eye on the Hawks Celtics game tonight, as the Celtics are on upset alert, apparently.
Upset alert.
Yeah, upset alert.